Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm going to show you material about prose. I'm Eny Kartika from group 9. Definition: prose is a form of language that has no formal metrical structure. It applies a natural flow of speech and ordinary grammatical structure rather than rhythmic structure, such as in the case of traditional poetry. Prose comprises of full grammatical sentences, which consist of paragraph and foregoes aesthetic appeal in a favor of clear, straightforward language. It can be said to be the most reflective of conversational speech. Some works of prose do have versification and a blend of the two formats that is called prose poetry. Genre: literature is often classified according to genre in general. However, we can say that the most common genre of prose are short story, novella, and novel. Short story. A short story is a piece of prose fiction that typically can be read in one sitting and focuses on self-contained incident or series of linked incidents, with the incident of evoking a single effect or mood. The short story is a crafted form in its own right. Short stories make use of plot, resonance, and other dynamic components as a novel, but typically to a lesser degree. While the short story is largely distinct from the novel or novella, short novel authors generally draw from a common pool of literary techniques. Short story writers might define their work as part of the artistic and personal expression of the form. They might also attempt to resist categorization by genre and fixed formation. Short stories have deep roots, and the power of short fiction has been recognized in modern society for hundreds of years. Novella. Novella is literary work that has a form smaller than a novel. The term novella comes from Italian novella, which means a fairy tale or news. Novellas have stories that are longer than short story, but shorter than novel. Novellas influenced the development of short story and novel in Europe. Novella is generally concerned with personal and psychological development as opposite to the larger social environment. Novella is a literary genre that is common in several European languages. However, novella is less common in English. Novel. A novel is a long narrative work of fiction with some realism. It is often in a prose form and is published as a single book. The word novel has been derived from the Italian word novella, which means new. Similar to short story, a novel has some feature-like representation of character, dialogue, setting, plot, climax, conflict, and resolution. However, it does not require all the elements to be a good novel. Element of prose: number 1, time; number 2, character; number 3, setting; number 4, point of view; number 5, plot; number 6, mood. Theme. The theme of a piece of fiction is its controlling idea or its central insight in the unifying generalization about life stated or implied by the story. While theme is central to a story, it is not the whole purpose. The function of a literary writer is not to state a theme but to show and describe it. Theme does not equal moral, lesson, or message. Number 2, character. A character is person, animal, being, creature, or thing in a story. Writers use character to perform the action and speak dialogue, moving the story along a plot theme. A story can have only one character, protagonist, and still be a complete story. This character's conflict may be an inner one with him or herself, or a conflict with something natural such as climbing a mountain. Most stories have multiple characters interacting, with one of them as the antagonist. causing a conflict for the protagonist. Setting. The setting of a story is its overall context where, when, and in what circumstance the action occurs. Setting as place. The physical environment where the story takes place. The description of the environment often points toward its importance. Setting as time includes time in all of its dimensions to determine the importance as what was going on at that time. Setting as cultural context. Setting also involves the social circumstance of the time and place. Consider historical events and social and political issues of the time. Point of view. Point of view is what the character or narrator telling the story can see his or her perspective. The author whose is to tell the story by determining the point of view. Depending on who the narrator is, he or she will be standing at one point and saying the action. This viewpoint will give the narrator a partial or whole view of events as they happen. Many stories have the protagonist telling the story, while in others, the narrator may be another character or an outside viewer, a narrator who is not in the story at all. The narrator should not be confused with the author, who is the writer of the story and whose opinion might not be those written in the narrative. Plot. Plot is a literary term used to describe the events that make up a story or the main part of a story. Plot is known as the foundation of a novel or story around which the character and setting are built. It is meant to organize information and events in a logical manner. When writing the plot of piece of literature, the author has to be careful that it does not dominate the other part of the story. There are 5 elements in a plot. Number 1, exposition or introduction is the beginning of the story, where character and setting are established. Rising action, which occurred when a series of events build up to the conflict climax. This is meant to be the moment of highest interest and emotion, leaving the reader wondering what is going to happen next. Following action, or the winding up of the story, occurs when events and complications begin to resolve. The result of the action of the main character are put forward. Resolution is the end of a story, which may occur with either a happy or tragic ending. And the last, mood. In literature, mood is a literary element that evokes certain feelings or vibes in readers through word and description. Usually, mood is referred to as the atmosphere of a literary piece, as it creates an emotional setting that surrounds the readers. Mood is developed in a literary piece through various methods, including setting, theme, tone, and diction. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.